The Lake Bluff Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting on August 16, 2023. Call to order and roll call, I guess, Clara.
Yep. Member Danley.
Aye.
Member Fisher.
Aye.
Member Miller.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Here.
Member Toll. And Chair Peters.
Here. All right. A quorum of the PCZBA is physically present at the meeting. In regards to Member Sorensen, a notice was received by a member of the PCZBA in accordance with village policy, and Member Sorensen will be deemed authorized to attend the meeting electronically unless a motion objecting to the member's electronic attendance is made, seconded, and approved by 2/3 of the members of the PCZBA physically present at the meeting. If no such motion is made, then Ann's request to attend the meeting electronically shall be deemed approved. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. All right. We're good?
Yep.
Motion to disapprove.
Yeah, so, we're fine. We're fine. No disapproval.
Agenda item number 2, non-agenda items and visitors' public comment time. The joint PCZBA allocates 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who like the opportunity to address the board on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the joint PCZBA is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Is anyone present wanting to address the committee?
I am.
Okay. Please state your name for the record and please state your address.
Emily Selby, 764 Oak Avenue.
All right.
And Clara, you have my PowerPoint for me?
Do, yes. Let me pull that up. Sorry.
I saw it there.
I did too. Here we go. Okay.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you very much. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I want to start by introducing myself. I am Emily Selby, and I have been a member of Grace United Methodist Church in Lake Bluff for 12 years. Grace has been providing a home for community organizations since 1887. For the past year, I have been part of a small group looking at ways to better utilize the education wing on the west side of the church that could help shore up church finances and also create new opportunities for members of our community. We've been fortunate to connect with 2 wonderful organizations that can do both, the Concrete Rose Learning Center and the Music Institute of Chicago. We plan to submit our applications to the village next week, but tonight I wanted to give you a sneak preview and answer any questions that you might have. The Concrete Rose Learning Center is proposing to offer free early childhood education program for children ages 3 to 5 in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff living at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. Lake Bluff and Lake Forest have been identified by the Illinois State Board of Education as child care deserts. Here's some statistics that just might surprise you. There are 599 children under the age of 5 in Lake Bluff. 23 are living at or below 200% of the poverty level. That's making less than $60,000 a year for a family of 4. There are 870 children under the age of 5 in Lake Forest, and 48 are living at or below the 200% of the federal poverty level. So in fact, there are 18 children between the ages of 3 and 5 in Lake Bluff and 21 in Lake Forest who are eligible for free early childhood education programs based on family incomes. That's 39 children. 0% of the preschool needs in Lake Bluff and Lake Forest are being met by state or federally funded early childhood education programs. There are no subsidized programs available for these children. So what does this mean for children in our community? Studies show that children have the greatest chance of succeeding in school if they attend a high-quality early education program. While all children benefit, children from more disadvantaged homes make the most progress. So there are 39 children in Lake Bluff and Lake Forest that are eligible for these programs, and because they do not have access, they are in fact at risk for academic failure. Thought it was really interesting. I took a look at what preschools cost in our community, and it was really rather stunning. It's been a long time since I had a preschooler. So Little Scouts in Lake Forest charges $1,189 a month for a half-day program of preschool, and $1,966 for a full day. So that works out to over $14,000 a year for a half-day, or $23,600 for a full day of preschool. And how do you do that if you're making $60,000 a year? And that's for one child, right? So there's a significant need here in this community for subsidized preschool. Okay. So the Concrete Rose Early Learning Center. I'd like to start by introducing Sharonda Brown, who's here with us tonight. Sharonda. Sharonda has her master's degree in education and 20 years of early childhood education experience. She also just happens to live here in Lake Bluff. Sharonda has submitted a proposal to the Illinois State Board of Ed for a grant that would fund a free preschool here in Lake Bluff at Grace Church for the children in our community that are eligible. This is what it would look like. So there would be the capacity to serve all 40 of the children in our community who would be eligible for early childhood education. We'll utilize 2 classrooms in the education wing of the church, kind of a normal school year, September to June, with an 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday schedule. So there would be 2 sessions, a morning and an afternoon, with 20 children enrolled in each, a licensed teacher, teaching assistant, and the executive director would be on site. So the curriculum would be research-based, as would the assessment tools. Families would be involved in the education of their kids. Parents and caregivers would be responsible for the transportation of the students. Grace has 5 years of experience hosting the Little Scouts preschool, so I think we have at least a decent idea of what we're getting into here. Next slide, please. So as far as the timeline for the early learning program, we plan to submit a proposal. The proposal has already gone into the Illinois State Board of Ed. We expect to hear about the funding of that grant sometime the end of September, beginning of October. In the meantime, what we want to do is to make sure the church meets all the village and the Illinois Board of Ed requirements for health and safety for the program. It would be the State Board of Ed that would be providing oversight. So something kind of interesting to note is that when Grace applied for the special use permit for the Little Scouts program, it was in fact a far more intensive use program. More students, more classrooms, longer hours. So this really is in fact a lesser ask as far as a special use permit would be. So we're going to just kind of go along with the flow here for getting this approved. You can expect to hear from us at the zoning meeting on the 20th, and then hopefully we'll move along into going before the full board. And then get classrooms ready for the kids. There are no structural modifications that we expect to be making to get things going. The other group that we're talking to is the Music Institute of Chicago. It provides students of all ages and abilities with comprehensive music education. This is a school that's been around for a long time. It was founded in 1931. There are locations in Chicago, Evans, Lincolnshire, other suburbs, and quite a few of them are actually held in churches. They work on a 2-semester system, fall and spring, and then a flexible summer session. It's probably going to be mostly in the hours after school, because it would be largely students being taught. So 3 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then probably all day Saturdays. We're still kind of working at looking at those hours. So private, small group instruction, and they would use 2 to 3 classrooms in the education wing of the church. Again, no structural modifications would be required for this program either. So it's my understanding, after talking to folks here at the village, that we would need to submit a redevelopment plan, which we would do before August 15th, sign an at-your-own-risk agreement so that we could get that music school up and running by the September 18th date, which would be the start of their first semester. So we're going to tag team and put that along with our preschool request at the zoning meeting on the 20th, and hopefully it would even be great if we could do it in one reading with the village board on the 27th, so we can get these programs launched. So at this point, if you have any questions for me or Sharonda, who's here, about either the preschool program or the music school, let's hear 'em.
I just have one question. For the Music Institute, approximately how many students per day?
Well, we're only going to have 2 to 3 classrooms, and there's one lesson at a time in a classroom. So it would be 3 students. If they did any group lessons, you might see 4 or 5 at one time. So there wouldn't be, and kind of the beauty of these 2 programs is that the preschool is going to be sort of in more morning, 8 to 3, and then the activity here is going to be more 3 to 9, which makes it work really well for the church and sharing the space.
Great, thank you.
Just one word of advice, if you haven't done so, although it sounds like you've been talking to the villages, to please reach out to the building officials, because life safety codes
Yes.
change a lot in 20
Oh, no,
years.
no, we've definitely got that,
For
the
you to be
fire
disciplined.
marshal, and yes, we're definitely aware of it. And we have not only the village requirements, but then we have the Illinois State Board of Ed, so we've got a lot of boxes to tick off in that regard. Anybody else?
Any other questions or comments from the
Seems like a good process.
Okay, good. I just want to put in my 2 cents worth here that, I mean, having especially this preschool program in this community, I think it's a need and something that I think we can all agree as the church, as the community, that these are kids that we should not be letting slip through the cracks.
So currently, the church isn't running any education programs by itself.
No. No.
Have
Okay.
Is there any other communities that are doing something very similar that you're able to work?
Well,
in
it's
parallel?
interesting because you mean as far as the early learning program? The truth of the matter is, you see this everywhere, North Chicago, Waukegan, right, where there's been a long-term documented need for serving this population. What we haven't seen is sort of this unrecognized subgroup of children in these really wealthy communities that aren't being served. So that's why Lake Bluff and Lake Forest are considered a desert, really. Not Waukegan, not North Chicago, because there are a lot of programs there. We're the desert because we can't, we're not meeting the needs of the children here, which interestingly is why we are eligible for this block grant from the state, because we are technically and demographically a childcare desert.
And we have a question from Anne, who is attending this meeting remotely. Anne, go ahead.
Oh, just one clarifying question. I saw that you want to be able, or hope to be able to get the music classes started in September, October. Are you hoping for the same for the preschool?
Well, we have to wait for the funding, the grant to be funded to ramp up the preschool. So that could be more towards, the beginning of October.
Okay.
But we're trying to do it as quickly as we can, and I think getting it through the approval process is going to be our first priority. But yes, the sooner the better, the sooner we can get these kids. And then we have to, do the marketing and identify the children and make sure they know this is available, so there'll be a lot more than just opening the school. We have to do some marketing and to make sure that people know it's there.
Great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? All right, thank you so much for
very
your
much.
time.
Good luck.
Right. Any other individuals that wish to approach the commission and provide comment? All right. Hearing none, Agenda item number 3, consideration of PCZBA meeting minutes, July 13, 2023 special meeting, and July 19, 2023. Any proposed revisions by any of the commissioners?
And just as a note, I did receive an email about a name typo and communication about a typo involving a year, so those will be revised.
Hearing none as far as additional revisions or modifications, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Agenda item number 4, informal review, 123 Skokie Highway property.
Yeah, and I'll just give a quick introduction of this one. Peter Whitmer of Whitmer and Associates is seeking informal feedback on a forthcoming request to annex 123 Skokie Highway, which is currently the By the Way Motel, and go through the rezoning and special use processes to allow a new ice rink. The property is targeted for redevelopment by the village and has L1 light industry zoning immediately to the south and west, as well as further north. And if the property were annexed and rezoned to L1, this use would require a special use permit for a membership sports and recreation club, similar to the farm baseball facility on Sherwood Drive. And this proposed use is consistent with our comp plan showing retail, commercial. And then due to IDOT construction plans within the next few years, the property would initially have access off of the 41 frontage road to the west, but would eventually only have access to the east along a road that is to be constructed. And with this change, a sound wall is also proposed immediately west of the property. And then just one other thing for consideration before Peter starts is that we've done kind of an initial zoning review, and there is a 100-foot building setback required along the front property line currently to the west. And so that is something else that would be a good thing for the PCZBA to discuss, kind of remedies for. This is something that we discussed, and it was something that was much more intended for the properties that are zoned L1 along the Route 43 corridor and keeping the green belt there. So just kind of, guidance on that aspect of this and whether we would be interested in granting like a text amendment or a variance for something like that is something else to consider. So go ahead.
All right. I'm learning things too. Thanks so much for taking the opportunity for us to present the project. So I guess no one saw what I sent you earlier. So we were proposing an ice rink. It's called Light the Lamp is what we're thinking of using right now. I had to have that explained to me since I'm not a hockey player, but like the name. We did look at By the Way Ice Rink too, and what was the other name that we were thinking about? But so the site is 2.5 acres. It is explained. It currently has the access off of 41, and then in the future would have the access off the. Let me just show here. Yeah, you can see this. So the road, the future road, when IDOT does its work, would come off the railroad tracks, and then we would access the parking here. The building itself is about 37,000 square feet that we're looking at. We thought it made the most sense to locate the building along the north edge of the property. We're not sure if we have an access fire lane and access around the back. We have the setbacks right now at 40 feet from the front and 30 feet at the corner of the rear and 25 feet on the side. So I think the 100-foot setback would be we can't do it kind of project. to do the ice rink at this size. We would not be able to fit. I mean, I guess we could somehow look at putting the building in this direction like this and having the parking around the two sides. That could be a possibility. We could look at that to see if we could do that. We thought that we were trying to keep the east side open for possibly some detention. We haven't worked on the engineering at all for this, so we're thinking that we'd have tube storage underneath the parking for detention areas on the site itself. We're anticipating we need parking for 100, and this indicates 100 spaces there, just for some scale ideas about that. The building itself, use is for basically the local hockey team. So if anybody has any kids in hockey, you quickly learn that your kid's skating at 9 or 10 at night at the college or going out to Glacier or other things. So there's really a lack of ice time at appropriate hours for high school kids. And so it's a big need, not only for the high school, but also for the Winter Club program. So they have a relatively large program. So they'd be the main two users of the ice, with the Falcons then feeding in as a third user for it. The building, as said, was 37,000 square feet. It's about 250 by 150. We would have a full sheet of ice, same size as the college. So some of the other rinks, like the one up on 41, is not that, so they can't really play games there for that. So this would be a full sheet of ice. We would have bleachers. We would think that the large games we would probably still have somewhere else. You know, the ones that would be largely attended, that we would have seating for about 100 people in the bleachers. Toilet rooms, concession, changing rooms, and a pro shop will be the other services provided inside the building. We haven't really looked too much. You know, we think the entrance would be somewhere on the south elevation, but we haven't really laid out exactly how the ice sheet would work. We're thinking that the building construction we would use as a precast concrete exterior with a bar joist roof. That's kind of a superior type ice rink as opposed to a metal building. And really, one of the largest costs of the ice rink is not only the initial purchase of the building itself, but the energy it's required to keep it cool and insulated. So precast concrete from a durability and insulation value is really the superior way to build an ice rink at this point. So we would have that and then have basically a flat roof on the for the roof. We are looking to purchase a property. We have a short due diligence time. We've been fortunate enough to get it under contract. And thanks for meeting so quickly, because we wanted to get a read from this board and, you know, to find if there was anything that we felt that was impassable. I think one of the things is really, it is for this community and Lake Forest and Lake Bluff users, which actually make the new access better, because most of the people are going to come from Lake Forest and Lake Bluff using the facility, so the new access road that comes off to the south would actually be an advantage and much safer, you know, because that's a tough little spot there on 41 that you're coming up there. Also, too, I didn't know about the sound barrier that they're planning. Is that IDOT is planning that in their plans? It's possible. Okay, so you know, and I guess I would just, if there's going to be a sound barrier put there, if we have a building next to that, the green space doesn't really make a lot of sense because you can't really see it from anywhere if there's a sound barrier on that side. So it seems to me it makes sense to go the other way. And I think, you know, there may be a little bit of a question of what is the front yard when they have the new road coming in the other way. You know, what's the front yard and what's the side yard for that? Could be some question there too. So I think that covers pretty much our plans at this point. So I'd open it up for any questions about the project.
Currently, it's not part of Lake Bluff.
Currently.
No, so the mobile homes is not part of it, but then the Gordas property to the north and then his property to the south is part of it. So it's kind of this little piece. It makes sense to us to annex it prior to building the building and getting the building done, sort of do it as one sweep, and so that we would go through Lake Bluff Building Department versus going through the county.
You find us easier than the county?
Yes, and your water too, because we'd have to go across the road, which it makes sense, to do that. So I think if we could get the zoning variances and the annexation agreement all together, as I say, we understand it's not a super simple process, but we're hoping that it's an amenity to the community. To have an ice rink within the city, I think would be a nice thing.
What would be your anticipated hours of operation, just generally? Would it go all 12 months, or?
Yeah, oh yeah, it would be year round, and I think that it would operate probably till probably 10 or 11 at night, and
6 to
start in the morning. At 8 if they can get people to do that. Weekends would be a prime time too. Yeah, that's the other thing great about the site too. It doesn't, we've been looking for a site, I don't know, Don Gleiman's the realtor and has been looking at for a couple of years. There just are not a lot of sites available in this vicinity, to do this. There was one out on 176 that we have looked at. It's not quite as good. We think this is far superior. When we saw it, it seemed to fit all the needs that we wanted.
And egress and access, ingress, egress, no critical issues?
No, I think in the short term, it's not ideal to have it come off the frontage road. And I don't know if it probably makes more sense that people actually come in by the post office, or the old post office, and come on that way and block off going out on 41, because it is just difficult, to say the least. So I think that would be something that we would talk about or try to understand. And then, we feel from understanding, talking with Drew and the village, that really once the secondary road comes out, that's going to be a far superior, when IDOT does its improvements to the intersection, which is, I think, just my understanding is just they have some hurdles to go, but it's going to get done. It's just a matter of when for that. So
About how many people max would be there at any one time, do you think?
I think we're figuring about 100.
Okay.
So pretty close to that.
Mm-hmm. And then, can you guys remind me, so immediately to the south, is it like a vacant lot, and then south of that?
Here's a little bit bigger, the site plan. So,
Okay.
We
did a special use permit for the car dealer, or there was a post office became the car dealer or something? Was it, we had to use a special use permit for that? Right, now it is, right?
That's down here in the, okay. Yeah, so this is the road, I just cut off the road that comes here currently and turns right here. So the new access is gonna come along the tracks and go past us, and then it is a cul-de-sac up here. So that's kind of a nice thing too, is so that's, if there were overflow parking, it's on a cul-de-sac. It's, I think from a safety standpoint, is much better, to have that. We may have a curb cut to have fire access around the back of the building if we needed to too. So, we'll get with the fire department and really understand what they're gonna require. It's gonna be a non-combustible building, but we'll only have access on 2 sides, so we might need it on 3 for that. And then the water improvements, so we'd have, hydrants out here on the water's already back here. So in terms of getting pressure for not only our fire protection system, sprinkler system, but for hydrants on the street too. It's already there, so that's good.
So tell me again, I didn't have any hockey players, so, but thinking about the community as a whole, you were mentioning that it's more for the older kids, high school, and the ones that play in sport games, or like the winter club kids,
Sure, so.
right? Is it, and then would it be open to the public at any time for just to skate?
I mean, they fill up most of the time so between the high school, which is actually a club sport, it's not it's not funded through the high school program. And then, that's 9th through 12th grade kids. And then the Winter Club has a pretty robust program which goes from preschool to I think 9th grade, and they might even have some other programs too. They actually have older people playing too, so that would be a possibility. I think generally they wouldn't have it open. There isn't an idea that they would have it open to the public, like sort of like Glacier does. Like, I know you can get down there and just skate, but I'm not sure that this facility has enough time to do that. For that. So I think we can refine that and see if there is any thing for that, or if it makes sense to do that. It is there's horse people and then there's hockey people, right? So, each of those things, once you have a kid and plays hockey, you pretty much spend a fair amount of time in these kinds of rinks. We're doing a project at the Academy right now, which is really getting kids, and the studies show that kids need to get to sleep. And that's probably one of the most important aspects of adolescence, is not getting enough sleep. So when you expect them to play hockey from, starting at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock and finish at 11 and then get home at midnight, there's no way they're going to have the correct amount of sleep that they have. So that's one of the primary things that we're looking at for this facility to provide. It is one person who's providing the funding for this, so they find it important and want to provide that. I don't think you don't see hockey rinks built for profit. It's somebody wants to have a desire to have a hockey rink, so it's. I don't think that, people are building hockey rinks to make money. Otherwise, you would see them, all over in terms of that.
I'm going to address it to us. Are any of the buildings along 41 in compliance with the 100-foot setback? No. So that might become a moot point. All right, Mr.
So, as was pointed out, that 100-foot setback was really dealing with Waukegan Road. That's that corridor that was the goal of the village. So even on 41 from 176 South, the auto dealerships and those other buildings are close. There's been relief granted to Chevrolet. Those little pads for the vehicles have been into that setback. And I don't think the village ever contemplated this setback, to my recollection or my reading of the code, ever contemplated, because this is not incorporated, right? The idea that these were already legal non-conforming, this is a very different area. So the idea of this area having a different setbacks, and that's what we talked about internally, maybe a text amendment to satisfy this would make more sense, saying north of 176 to have a different setback. It just makes sense in that I don't think it was contemplated it would even apply in this area.
So that shouldn't be a problem for this.
At least at staff's perspective, we thought, now, other than change the code, because I don't think it was ever intended to apply in this area.
Okay. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. We talked about the most internally is guidance from this group maybe on where you site the building, because there's going to be a before and after. And so the idea that, as was talked about, maybe there's a sound wall. I don't recall exactly, and I didn't get a chance to study this in great detail, but 41 itself, as part of the reworking of that highway, the profile is going to be lowered, right? It's going to be right where it sits today, the lowest point under the bridge. Right now, 176, it's going to be dropped down. So as it comes up, I don't know if it's going to be tailing this far north. George, you may remember from the phase one how far that goes. If it probably won't be dramatic at this point, it's so far away from that.
The biggest factor is the access ramp.
Right.
The high-speed access ramp is going to extend north of this property.
Yeah.
That's
So-
why they have to provide access off the
And that's what the whole point of the intersection is, to add the dedicated acceleration and deceleration lanes. But, but the idea of, as it was pointed out, there's a sound wall, then having the building to the west to have the biggest, most grand entrance coming from makes the most sense, right? But instead,
Yeah, the other thing that we were thinking about too is really talking with Sid Gorder, and who owns property to the south too, and seeing what his thoughts are in development of that property, so that there could be some cohesiveness between possibly, overflow parking, if it had a use that wasn't using the parking at nights and all that. So some cohesiveness between those two properties. So, we thought if the parking was here and there was some, access from this space to there, it would make sense, as opposed to having, we kind of feel the trailer park is going to be a tough one to get rid of, based on our understanding of trailer parks and their financial situations. So where really the property to the south right now is, I think they're thinking of developing that at some point. And so doing something, at least getting some ideas of how that might jointly be, or how there could be some cooperation between those two properties too.
How do you plan on lighting this?
I think we would have standard card parking lot lighting on poles, box type cutoff lights.
That affect anywhere else in the village, other than the trailer park, which is not the village? Would it have any impact on Tangley or anything going north on Green Bay? Anybody to complain about the lights, or?
It's pretty far.
So no protests? Okay, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of nice thing about it, is just from traffic standpoint and getting to it, it doesn't go through any residential areas, so that's nice too. Our building most likely will be 35 feet high, probably the highest point, with 26 feet clear underneath is sort of the typical thing. So we'll work that out. So I don't know if there's a height restriction on that, or is it above 35?
32 feet.
Is it 32 feet? Yeah, we have to watch. We're going to be close on that one, because a span 150 feet, we use trusses that are 6 feet deep, long span trusses that do that. So we're going to have to work those out too, to see if we'll need a couple of foot. We typically slope these one direction so that we can collect all the water, and I think we collect all the water to the north, and then have pipe storage underneath the whole thing, under all the parking is most likely. We'll also get preliminary engineering done before we come through, so we know, obviously what the drainage is, on the site itself. Because I don't think we're going to have enough space to have pond or detention area on, I think we're going to have to use the whole site for that, for parking. So,
Yeah, and it does meet parking. 63 spaces would be required, and as
my feeling would be that from our diagram here, that we would just continue the parking out to the east. So, we would continue the parking into this structure, or maybe we wouldn't pave that. And if parking became an issue down the road, that we needed more parking, that we could, have that, but maybe not do it in the beginning, just to see, what the capacities are and all that. Because I hate to put more asphalt down if we don't really need it.
What do you anticipate as far as traffic volume, and where do you anticipate the traffic to be going?
Well, in the short term, it's going to come in as I said, I think it should come down in here and come up through there and go back out through that way. The nice thing about that is the stack is pretty good, because you can stack, even though when you turn on 41, then you can go east and get on that road, which we think a fair amount of people are going to be coming from the east because they're from Lake Forest and Lake Bluff. So that kind of makes sense to do that in the short term. the long term then, it would be, you know, when the road gets back here, again, it would be, we see, you know, at least 50%, if not more, going south into the light. And then, you know, the rest would go up and have to go north on 41. Or if they're gonna want to come around, they would come down around, up over the bridge and come and then turn south on 41. That, would we be required to have a parking study for this project? Our traffic study.
I'm trying to recall under the SUP standard. I don't remember exactly. I mean, it's something that the zoning board could request for additional information. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's requisite.
It's just something we need to know, just so if we do that, or if we're, you know, it's required, we can. I don't foresee any issues. I don't know what the current parking is on that site. They have, what do they have, 36 rooms? 20? 20 units a house, okay, so they don't have, they will have more parking than that, yeah.
Drew, do you have any idea how long that, I mean, I know it's IDOT, but how long that project is? Because my only thought is that road is really narrow, you know, the access road to the west. If you're getting 100 cars, you know, having just driven it, you know, looking at this whole thing and everything, that's kind of narrow and, you know, a little challenging. Do you have any idea? I mean, are we talking, you think many years, or our guess is?
Well, it continues. As of last year, it was placed in the state's multi-year, 5-year program, multi-year. It is, the state wants to do the project. The state is stuck in a procurement issue with stormwater pumps. But they want to do it. This is closer than it's ever been. I would say I would have to guess within 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I can't be more specific than that.
Right.
But I know that they have, phase 1 is complete. They need to do phase 2. There are very few properties, very minimal properties that they need to acquire to do the project. Mm-hmm. My understanding is they have not started land acquisition. But this phase 2 deals with preparing, you know, the actual construction drawings for bid documents and so forth, and getting the land, and that's where they are. But they need to do the stormwater improvements first. Mm-hmm. And that's, they're stuck in this purgatory with procurement procedures. But it was actually supposed to go, you know, immediately following the deer path improvements. And because we're still stuck, that hasn't happened, we being the state, but.
And for what it's worth, they have what's called quick take eminent domain authority. So land acquisition for IDOT's a lot quicker than it would be for any other government entity. Mm-hmm. So they would be able to, I mean, it still takes a little time, but it's not as if they start that process and it takes 5 years to acquire the land.
Okay.
It's pretty quick.
So the service road issue, I mean, that is an IDOT service road. They maintain it.
It is IDOT? Okay.
Yes. That's IDOT right away. They've resurfaced it recently. Mm-hmm. We'll work with IDOT to help find, you know, the safest way to manage that, obviously. But I mean, right now there's access today, and
right.
I would agree the service road for now, the near term, is the safest route.
We have to get IDOT approval for this project to make sure that it's not in any other right-of-ways. You know, it's not like they have to.
I think that was just with the county, maybe different with the village.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. So, was it? Okay.
State driveway permit's gonna be required. You have to get a permit from the state. Your funding.
To maintain the current access, you think?
Yes, changing.
Yeah.
But should be a pretty standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be pretty standard. I mean, there are 2 curb cuts
currently.
All
we're
up and
not
down.
planning
They may
on
ask you to
moving.
go to, they may ask you to go to one, right?
Yeah, they
Right?
may
So
say.
They've been
and I
trying to
guess what
reduce them.
My point is to the whole conversation is they may
Yeah.
say, hey, you have to close it and use the access road, or you have to use these two accesses. You know, but they have to allow us to use two existing accesses that we have currently
Right.
using.
So no risk of a potential right-of-way or eminent domain issue?
No, not in this.
This
not-
property was not identified for
It's
any,
not, yeah.
they don't
Okay.
need any of
They
this
don't need
property.
to take anything on the property.
And the demand is there?
It's been there for a long time. I mean, it's really the unique thing is someone stepping up and saying it has the financial wherewithal to do this. I mean, so this, there's been talk of building an ice rink around here, I don't know, for probably 20 years. I mean, for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a new thing. It's just that nobody wanted to, it's a pretty substantial investment, not only get the property, but also then build the building.
Well, you picked a great name for the facility.
Yeah, I thought so. Whoever did that did it a wonderful. I wasn't as crazy about by the way, but I thought that was kind of funny too. So, what's that? The sign?
Hotel, it says hotel, the lights, but that.
I was just telling Donnie. I said I think that's going in my living room if we get this done. So, yeah. No, it's a great. I think it's a great improvement from how this is developed. I mean, I think it is a win-win kind of situation for the annexation, to have part of that. At least that's the way we see it. So, if there's something different, it'd be good to know it now before we own the property, and then we, have to go back and do something different.
Do we run on parallel tracks between annexation and zoning, or we do annexation first?
No, it would come probably here first, where we would do the PCZBA hearing on the zoning. It would then go to the village board. The village board would, if they approved the annexation, then they would approve the zoning probably the exact same time. But we would be probably the first stop.
On the
yeah.
train?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
and then
anticipate any board objections to something like this? Seems like a
And-
win-win, so.
Anne has her hand up as well. She's attending remotely and has a comment. Go ahead, Anne.
Hi, I am curious. We've talked about a couple of environmental impacts in terms of obviously drainage. That's why this is happening in a lot of ways. Drainage and lighting. I wonder if there's anything out there that you're concerned about that would be additional or a little bit more complex with this. Noting that much of the property is still wooded and probably soaks up some water.
We had it. Sorry. We had a preliminary review with civil engineer just to see if there was any species of trees within the existing, and it's pretty much all weed type trees, so there isn't anything in that. We didn't see anything on that site that would that we have come across yet. So, for that.
George, I think you had a question?
Yeah, a comment. Obviously, in a meeting like this, there are no guarantees.
Sure.
If anybody says anything, but you're looking for some feedback, and pondering this, I think it's a really good fit for that area. Village has been desperate for many, many, many decades to have something nice built along there that would work for the community to kickstart that whole area, because it is a disaster. But on the other hand, the mobile, there's 60 or more units, mobile homes just to your north. And with everything that light industrial would allow along there, we need to protect those people. And I think this type of plan is a really good fit, considering what could go there under light industrial, all kinds of things, and comply with zoning outright. So that's just my general impression. I hope it works. I'm terrified that when you get into the stormwater, and I hope they're digging into it right now, that you can make that work.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
tricky.
I think so too. I mean, you say that, George, we were fortunate to get a contract on this property because it's sold to somebody else, would not annex in, and you would not be happy with what they're doing, and you wouldn't have any control over it. You know, they just stay in the county. And so, you know, I think this is a really good use too for it, because they basically want to use it as, you know, trucking and you know, trucking transportation center there, because there's the access to the road to that. So it makes a lot of sense for this.
Just one question, what is the water up there right now? Is it well for the existing? Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, the existing hotels bring bottled water because you want to not drink the water.
Got it.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Does that area tend to flood? Do we know?
No,
I don't think so.
the frontage doesn't go under, but it's, when you lift the whole site, there's gonna be people looking at what you might do to the
Oh, no
mobile
que-
home park.
Oh, no
And
question
there's a
about that.
big low area in the backyard that is maybe classified as a wetland
Well,
under
that-
today's regulations, and you might have to buy a quarter-acre credit or something.
We did look at it in terms of what was, at least on the bigger maps. I mean, obviously we'll have the wetlands delineation, but none of it was in the wetlands or in a wetlands off those maps. So that was my understanding, though. But that is absolutely, you're right on that point.
Well, thank you very much. Very intriguing discussion.
All right,
And,
thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
So hopefully we'll be back in front of you.
Come back.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, thank you very much.
and I'll let you know where the sign goes.
All right. Agenda item number 5, staff report.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give an update that our comprehensive land use plan consultants will give an existing conditions report at next month's meeting. And I've confirmed with them that they should be ready to go for that. It looks
At
like.
the normal meeting, or is it be a?
Yeah, at the normal meeting. And it looks like we've lost access to our screen. They also have a website that I was just going to quickly show you, but it is lakebluffplan.org. And if you want to kind of just take a look at that and explore, something that is interesting that they have is a comment map. And it's truly a map of Lake Bluff where you can pinpoint areas and kind of map out areas that are difficult or a challenge for a certain reason that you see, where there's a transportation need or an idea or a place you love to kind of get that conversation started. And if some of our PCZBA members want to give some input on that, sometimes it's easier if there's already some input in for more residents to start to do that instead of wanting to be the first ones or things like that is something that our consultant mentioned. But that's the only update that I have. So yeah, next month we can expect a presentation from Tesca.
Anything else on the agenda so far?
No, but I know that the church that you heard from today
They may be coming
is
back.
eager to hopefully get on that next agenda.
That should be easy.
If we do get other applicants, would you consider having a meeting just for the comp plan?
We would,
Okay,
yeah,
that would be best.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, Clara. Agenda item number 6, commissioners report. Hearing nothing. Item number 7, adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Third.
Third, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.